like now to invite David Maguire. David is Vice-Chancellor of the University of Greenwich, but he's also coming to talk to us today in his capacity as Chair of Jisc. And USISA and Jisc have a long-standing relationship, and we work in partnership on a lot of projects. David is going to be talking to us a little bit about Jisc and some of the projects they're doing in the context of some of the challenges and opportunities that we currently face in the HE sector at the moment. Thank you, David.
Well, thank you, and thank you for that introduction. It's really nice to be here, and thank you very much indeed for the kind invitation to come along and speak with you today. I've got two hats on. I'm the chair of the board of Jisc, and you all know what Jisc is, of course. You all consume and use the technologies and the services quite extensively. I'm also the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Greenwich, and I'm really going to bring those two perspectives together in my presentation today. I do, however, feel a bit like the warm-down part of the programme today after the previous speaker. I'm afraid I won't be able to quite live up to that, but hopefully there's something of interest to you. So I'm going to begin by talking about some of the challenges which we all face at the present time. I'll speak a bit about Jisc, the technologies and the content services which are currently available, speak about some of the digital developments which I see are driving us forward as individual institutions and as a sector. I'm going to speak a bit about what's happening at Greenwich and reflecting back some of the national and general infrastructure and widespread changes, and hopefully at the end give you a chance to ask some questions and engage in a little bit of a debate. You know there are lots of challenges out there at the present time. It is a difficult time to be in higher education. We've got the government intent on building markets and having us compete against a wide range of public and private sector organisations. That means we're being asked to do more with less, and we've been asked to up our game at the expense possibly of others, even just to stay constant with what we've expected over the last few years. Some of the questions I'm asking is, how can we use technology to compete more effectively against challenger institutions and others from overseas? What does it mean to be a global institution in the world at the present time? How can we expand our footprints internationally into transnational education or campuses overseas? How can we respond to the challenger institutions from capitals and countries around this world who want to set up operation in the United Kingdom? What's the role of technology in all of that? How can we maintain high-performance bandwidth into countries in China? How can we set up connectivity to our overseas campuses and our research projects involving collaboration in multi-countries? And how can we respond to the fact that media companies are setting up online technologies and online systems in this country and are forcing us to rethink the way we do teaching and learning and the way we engage in our research in a collaborative sense? There's a massive growth in content. Some of the big science experiments which are currently in operation are thought to be bigger at peak performance than the entire traffic which runs across the internet at the present time. And even if half of that is BS, that's still a big number and a big concern for us to worry about. There are rising digital expectations. At one level, we've got casual people coming onto our campuses and into our buildings expecting the technology just to work, to be able to access the internet and access a range of services with minimum impedance. At the other end, we've got our researchers wanting access to exceedingly high-performance computing, concerned about any impedance which security measures might bring. And we've got users in our student and staff community who are really challenging us by bringing in their own devices, expecting the quality of service and the quality of technology they experience at home in their entertainment lives on an everyday basis. So what people on your campuses, what you're trying to do and what Jisc is trying to do is respond to all of those things, build technology and systems that work, but also build technology and systems which future-proof us against some of these key things which are happening to us and are gathering momentum and pace. Well, Jisc has been around, as you know, for more than 25 years. It's changed a little bit in the last few years. It is essentially a charity. It's owned by you and me, members of the higher education and further education community. And what we do at Jisc is three things when all is said and done. We build shared digital infrastructure and services. That's probably what we're best known for, and frankly that consumes most of the money and most of the resources. Janet is the principal example of that, but it's by no means the only example, and there's some other things I've listed on there which exist now and which are working on at the present time. We do a lot of deals on behalf of the sector with IT vendors and organizations for technology, for content and for services, which means that you on an individual basis don't have to navigate license agreements. We can get better buying power by working together, and we can standardize on different types of technology and different ways of doing things, and from that we all benefit, I think, on a collective basis. And we also do a little bit of offering trusted advice and practical services and assistance to organizations, be it training about the issues around the PREVENT agenda, or be it bringing in information and training and best practice on research data management or technology enhanced learning and things like that. So we do three things on behalf of the sector for the sector. There are quite a lot of people who use Jisc technology, quite a lot of organizations and moving parts. About 450 colleges, about 160 universities, almost 1,000 skills providers up and down the country, a large number, around 40 research organizations, and on a regular basis about 18 million people connecting to and use Jisc services on an annual basis. So it's quite a substantial undertaking. We spend about £130 million of your money on providing these different technology services and infrastructure activities. So that's about the size, to put it in context, of a small to medium-sized university. And there are about 450 or so people in the Jisc organisation working on your behalf for you. Well, when I talk to my colleagues in Greenwich and I talk to other people in the sector, here are some of the things which we are worrying about and stressing about and looking forward to trying to get to grips with and implement inside our organisations. Getting connected to the outside world, getting connected to people inside our own organisations is still at the top of many people's agenda. Worried about people from outside breaking in and doing nasty things to our systems. We're also really concerned about people inside our organisations misbehaving and using our technology for inappropriate activities. We're still getting to grips with cloud technology and cloud services, and asking questions about how that can help us to do things better, faster, cheaper. There's a big drive, I think, for once again to revisit technology-enhanced learning and see how that can really make better use of technology to improve pedagogic outcomes inside our universities and colleges. Learning analytics is driving fast, probably not a hotter topic inside academic circles and universities than that at the present time. And we've got all of this data we're trying to harness to do learning and research a little bit better. And so in the next few minutes I'm going to go through those topics and just unpack some of the state of the art and some of the ideas and some of the things which are currently happening. Well, let's begin with connectivity and Janet, the glue which holds many universities together and makes things largely possible. So there's a little graph which shows the traffic which is passing across Janet from January 2010 on the left up to, in orange, the present day in January 17, and the dashed line is expected growth in traffic over the next few years. And that's gigabits per second on the y-axis, the up and down axis. You can see where we are, about 500 gigabits per second of total traffic on Janet at any given time at the present rate. It's doubling about every 2.5 years. Yes, doubling about every 2.5 years. And we expect that to continue at least for the foreseeable future. So lots of people sending lots of packets of information from an increasingly wide collection of origins and destinations, and doing some really intriguing and useful things with the network. And so one of the things that we've been doing is trying to ensure that the current technology is fit for purpose, it's robust and it's reliable, but also trying to grow the network to enable people's future aspirations. So here's a simple network topology diagram of what Janet looks like. You can see the 4 nodes there in the southern part of England, essentially in London, a couple of nodes in the Midlands in Birmingham and Nottingham, Bristol out there in the west, and then in the north in Scotland, Glasgow, with the main pipes of digital infrastructure, the fibres which connect those together with the Janet backbone. Obviously, there's a lot of last-mile technology that you're responsible for connecting into points of presence and connecting various parts of your organisations into Janet. You see also there those little clouds showing peering. A really important thing that Janet does is it has effective and efficient peering into a range of different services from Microsoft, from Amazon, from Netflix, and many other important networks internationally as well as in the UK. And that both minimises network traffic but also optimises connectivity to those. So one of the things we've done recently is we've mirrored Netflix US servers in the United Kingdom and done 2 things. We've reduced the amount of transatlantic traffic which we pay for, and also improved performance by optimizing the connections between the 2 sets of content. And hopefully your users in your organization have benefited from that, although they probably actually haven't really noticed. And that, of course, is one of the interesting things about Janet. You know you're doing a good job when nobody knows that you're there and nobody appreciates really what you do. In fact, that's about our lives in general, isn't it, as IT people? We're only doing a good job when people know that you're not there. Sad but true. Now, you'll also see in there there's a colour coding for the size of the pipes, as it was earlier in this year, about 200 gigabits per second connecting most of the backbone together and 100 gigabits other parts. We've just come through what's called the Janet midterm upgrade, where a lot of the devices on the network have been upgraded and a lot more dark fibre has been lit up to provide greater bandwidth. So the gist of it is that the Janet network has had its capacity in the core backbone increased to 600 gigabits per second, and in other parts to 200 gigabits per second. And I hope that, again, nobody noticed this actually occurred. This took place, in fact, while full network connectivity was maintained, and we hope that this will enable us to continue to manage the growth in traffic over the next few years. Well, Janet is an interesting network. Not only is it very large, it's also got huge bandwidth capacity and is very fast. A few months ago, an external organisation came to Janet and was quite perplexed and surprised about the performance characteristics of the network. And here's some of that data. This is latency, speed, essentially. So small is good. And you can see there at the bottom of the network, this is the Janet network. And then we've also got BT Public Services Internet. We've got Sky, and at the top there, TalkTalk, and Virgin is the red one in the middle. So across this particular period, the end of November, middle of November last year, Janet was the fastest of those widely known publicly accessible networks. Another way of evaluating the performance of the network is how much can you push across it at any given time. So the throughput, and here, big is good, and that's the Janet network at the top. And then we've got BT, Virgin, Sky, and TalkTalk at the bottom of there. But I don't think Janet's just about pipes. It's not just about having a fast way of connecting organisations together and pushing large amounts of data across it. I think Janet's good because of the services which run on top of it. So you'll all be implementing EduRoam. You'll all have and be aware of the web filtering capabilities and the security and identity management facilities which are on the network, and the fact that lots of other people are connected to it also makes a big difference. Well, one of the really big things that Jisc has been working on in the last 12-18 months has been cyber security, or should I say, trying to minimize the threat of cyber attacks on the network. And we've been doing that at multiple levels. The first level is just drawing attention to everybody the importance of protecting ourselves and our resources, but I don't think you probably need any real lessons in that and the importance of that. We've also been trying to work with other organisations around the country, including New Scotland Yard, National Crime Agency, Home Office through the Prevent Initiative, Security Intelligence Agencies and others, to share information, to share best practice, and to build a group collaborative approach to dealing with cyber attacks. And Jisc has put in place a fairly extensive plan of different activities to try and build up our resilience, to be able to respond quickly to attacks, and to try and work with the community to try and mitigate the implications of cyber activities at all different sorts of levels. So a year or so ago, year and a half ago, this is all about drawing this to people's attention, understanding what was going on at the present time, and building some sort of resilience. We've implemented a free web filtering technology on the network, which you can use to decide who gets access or doesn't get access to your part of the network in the world. And we're doing a lot on security conferences to try and draw this to people's attention. More recently, been implementing technology to deal with distributed denial of service attacks and other types of infringements on our networks. So just coming off the back of spending about £7 million, it's not quite all done at the moment, but it's well on its way to being implemented to deal with some of these challenges which we currently face. And going forward, there's a plan of work for at least the next 12 to 18 months to try and improve the cybersecurity capabilities of our network. So one of the things that's been happening is we're trying to protect the edge of the Janet network, such that if there is an attack on it, the core of the network can function adequately. We're trying to look transparently at what packets of information are moving across the network to try and do some filtering and to identify critical or difficult traffic, and have implemented a web traffic scrubbing system to enable to filter out any attacks as they occur and hopefully clean them and put the packets back out onto the network. Jisc, I think, is doing quite a good job here in what is a really, really difficult area, given the speed at which the technology is moving, the approaches which people are using are moving. And actually, just about 6 weeks or so ago, Jisc identified a DDoS attack to one university. We contacted them, and when we contacted them, this was the first that they knew that was actually an attack taking place, and we were able to help support them to deal with the implications of that. This is one of these areas where we'll never be perfect. We'll just be as good as we can. We'll try to stay, if not one step ahead of the attackers, possibly one step behind. And there's quite now a good team, I think, in Jisc who are able to offer advice and assistance to you if you want to look at what's happening in your own organisation. So moving on a little bit to cloud computing. Of course, if I was addressing UCISA 10 years ago, I could be talking about the new wave of cybersecurity. Yes, I need to move on from cybersecurity, don't I? Onto cloud computing and everything that's happening there. I think that what's happened in the last 10 years is that cloud computing has become more of a commodity item, and there's a lot of expertise and experience about how to use it, what works, what doesn't work, when it's cost effective, and so on. And I think Jisc's contribution here is that we've made cloud computing available to a wider range of different users. We've commoditized it, we've made it easily and cost effective for organizations to use. So we've built a data center, or should I say we've purchased space in a data center in Slough in the south. We've got 15 universities and colleges actively involved as tenants in that space, and another 4 about to join. So this is Imperial, LSE, Brunel, Reading, Sanger Institute, Crick Centre, and people like that doing high-performance computing, collaborative sharing, file sharing, and outsourcing or hosting their applications in a range of different operational areas. We're in the process of building an equivalent system in the north. We've selected a vendor, we've purchased a space, we're connecting up to Janet, and we've got some anchor tenants there for that right now, and are intending to expand that in the course of the next 1 to 2 years. I think the pricing is very competitive. It's more competitive than typically we think that you'll be able to buy because of the power of economies of scale. We've also negotiated the agreement, so you can follow along those if that meets your procurement standards, and hopefully makes it easier for you to start small and grow, or start medium and grow to meet your aspirations. There are a number of universities, I think, which have gone headlong into this, a number of colleges which are designing themselves to be essentially cloud-only operations. I was talking to a Staffordshire the other day. They're doing some, I think, interesting work in that. A number of FE colleges are really heavy into that as their approach to delivering IT content and services to their users. It's not just about data centers. There's work also to lever Microsoft's Azure platform, Amazon Web Services, and through Microsoft Office 365, SharePoint, and other Microsoft technologies are available for people to use. And a lot of people, of course, have outsourced email and other range of different operations into this type of environment. And I think it will grow, and there's big activity and interest in high-performance computing and other high-performance and high-demand services. There is not an institution in this room which is not currently using technology for learning and teaching. Everybody's doing it, but by the same token, there is not a university or college in this room which is doing everything that they possibly could in this particular area. And when we go around and talk to different people, here's some of the things that they're interested in and what the growth front is at the present time. I've had the opportunity of going round and about and visiting a few institutions at the present time. I've been hugely impressed by the work, for example, at Open University in learning analytics and online activity, in the way they're really running the university's teaching and learning on the back of technology. And if you took that away, they wouldn't really be able to operate in this institution. I had the chance to visit Edinburgh recently, where they've got almost 70 master's courses online, charging the same fees as their face-to-face courses. And they've got round about the same number of online master's students, or taught masters, as they do face-to-face on their campus. So this is real. There's lots of good practice out there, but there's lots more that everybody can do. And so what we're trying to do at Jisc is to organise a community effort so everybody can understand from everybody else what's going on, what best practice is, identify areas where there are gaps in our knowledge, our ability, our capabilities, our technology, and bring coalitions of the willing together to move forward the frontier on each of those areas and share best practice. Be it personalised learning, using data to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of learning outcomes, using the cloud and shared technologies to improve things, working on individual point technology solutions to assist with simulation or understanding and automating difficult tasks. We're working on, got ideas about a range of different things, as well as the rather more prosaic things about how you design classrooms and what's the digital experience for people who are operating in a virtual environment. So one of the contributions that Jisc has made to this has been to author a publication, came out as a HEPI, Higher Education Policy Institute paper, authored by Sarah Davis, Joel Mullen and Paul Feldman, the Chief Executive of Jisc, on rebooting the learning for the digital, rebooting learning for the digital age. And that looked at a series of case studies from work both nationally and internationally. So in America, we looked at some work there which shows that about 3/4 of projects were saving roughly 1/3 of their costs, as well as getting better pedagogic outcomes when technology is used in curriculum redesign. In Australia, University of New England, we're using learning analytics to reduce student attrition and improve retention rates, which were anything from 15% or so. And here in this country, Nottingham Trent University, NTU, a big user of learning analytics. They've seen extensive increase in study time as a result of improving the engagement of students and the use of student engagement data. And I think NTU, along with OU, are one of the big success stories of using learning analytics at the present time. So speaking of learning analytics, you probably know that that's a big initiative for Jisc at the present time. A number of people, of course, have done this and are quite mature, but they tend to be small and fairly isolated. And what we're trying to do is organise a community effort to build the first national learning analytics service. Now, that's a very aspirational goal, and not least a challenge because of the very large number of moving parts and the very large number of different approaches that people have taken. We're motivated to do this because of the benefits we've observed that learning analytics brings in terms of improving the quality of teaching as delivered by staff to students. There's a lot of good experience I've already recounted about how that can help with student retention and progression into subsequent years and the outcomes that they receive in terms of the qualifications from organisations. But also there's good evidence to suggest that learners, students, can have their experience improved. They can profile what they're doing against other students in their cohort or previous cohorts in their institution, or indeed compare their progress against their peers in other institutions. In short, data is helping people to be more effective and more efficient in terms of their learning and teaching. So our approach has really been to bring people together, to build an architecture and a set of standards, and then to provide that freely available where we can, but at cost where we can't, to enable people to do their own thing better or to join into a community effort to do things better with others. And it's for you to choose how you participate in that. You could be a lurker and just watch what's happening and steal the best bits, you know, and it's all you do, good for you. Well, you're welcome to it, and if we've helped you, great. You might want to participate by using some of the standards or some of the technology. That's also feasible and quite acceptable, and a really important way in which people will do that. And then there are others who want to jump straight in with 2 feet and see this as their learning analytics solution. Right now we've got about 50 organisations which are in this at one of those levels. There are about half a dozen who are in with both feet and are actively engaged in the pilot projects, actively putting their student data into the learning records warehouse, and are using or beginning to use the business intelligence capabilities to analyse that and profile their information, and are beginning to use some of the applications on mobile phones, on the desktop, as web services to consume that and share that with people around their organisation. Even though progress is being made, this is still very much at the early phases, and it's going to be a multi-year project, and who knows where it will end up. But I think we've shown that people do want to do this, we've shown that people do want to do this together, and we've shown that technically it's feasible, and we're really optimistic that this will distinguish the United Kingdom higher education sector as compared to other sectors in the world. So I think it's an exciting project, and it's going really well. Oops. Moving on a little bit to Jisc Collections. This is actually a little known but really, really successful part of what Jisc does. It's about bringing content and about bringing content services to the community for their use in research, teaching and administrative activities, and about reducing the burden, reducing the cost, and making more data, more information, more content more widely available. So we essentially negotiate better deals with a range of different suppliers, and we stand up content in the form of services, which makes it much easier to consume and much easier for organisations and individual organisations to use. So we've negotiated 9,000, we've got 9,000 subscriptions active at the present time, negotiated 250 licence agreements covering more than 400 subscriptions, £43 million worth of cost monies passed through to pay for all of these things in a typical year. About 40% of all of the content services which the library community typically uses is purchased through these sorts of agreements. So it's quite a big operation. I thought I should put a picture of a library in here for people in there. Anyone know where this library is? Anyone recognise it? It's probably the closest library to where we are right now. It's the University of South Wales Library in Newport, where I had the pleasure to go and visit recently. So here's some of the things that are available right now. Magazines, Spare Rib, Vogue and things like that. Huge project digitising historical text and bringing that online. A lot of work of bringing medical data, an important project with the Wellcome Trust and the Internet Archive, bringing 19th century material online. 16 million pages have been stood up in the last few weeks and months. So an extensive range of information. This, of course, is used by learners, but it's also used by the research community. And that's a really big strand also of the work that Jisc does, and is increasing in importance, I think. We've been working on a number of projects and bringing those together, throwing a blanket over them and calling them a national research data shared service. So at the top here is some of the people who are participating. So just down the road from here, Cardiff University. There's other big institutions like Imperial in Cambridge, smaller organisations like the Royal College of Music, and a range of teaching first and research first organisations. We're working with them and their systems like current research information systems, finance systems, publication repositories, trying to bring all that together in an integration layer to support putting that in repositories, preserving it, making it available and reporting on that information, and then pushing it out through a series of different applications and services to increase the utility of that information, increase the adoption of it, and extend the size of the community, of course reducing the frictional effect wherever we can of working with information in an effective way. And one of the things I'd like to do is just to share a little bit about that and how it works. And hopefully this video will.
There's a whole world of knowledge out there available online. I think the excitement for students now is that they have this wealth of material that the student of the past didn't have access to. I'm Dr. Rafe Hallett. I try and get students enthusiastic about these 17th century texts that I embed in my teaching. Digital literacy matters. The digital world is augmenting everything that we do. So it's not replacing the real, but it's giving us new possibilities to live differently, to work, and also it's transforming the culture of research as well. There are a lot of tutors in academic disciplines who still privilege the lone scholar activity of focused reading of a text. And of course we need to preserve that focus, but that learning is now much more collaborative, more democratic in the sense that we expect students to work together to solve problems and to produce knowledge. The University of Leeds have invested huge amounts of money and resources into a digital infrastructure. What we didn't have, though, was a module that guided and nurtured our students as scholars. So what we produced was a module called Studying in a Digital Age. It starts off quite simply, allowing students to navigate through our virtual learning environment, but then it's got increasingly more complex over the last few years and it's evolving all the time. For me, one of the most impressive projects is a collaborative project with the UK Medical Heritage Library. They created a whole new visual culture around the archive, and what it allowed users to do was choose their own route into that knowledge and choose their favoured visualisation. It's our duty, an obligation almost, to set up students to research in a way that's networked, that has online impact, and that actually brings in areas of public engagement. Students as co-creators of online research are crucial, I think. And the exciting thing for me is really being able to see for the first time what the benefits of student-produced knowledge really is. What we can do now with the digital productivity of students is harness that knowledge and then feed it to energise the next year's cohort. So it's that legacy production of knowledge that I think is the most important thing for me.
So thanks to Rafe Hallett and the University of Leeds for sharing with us how they're using that rich content in both research and teaching, and bringing large quantities of information for the first time really into the classroom and into to their research projects. Moving on, Jisc is also trying to help organisations understand their digital state of readiness and how they compare with other organisations. So this digital capability discovery tool a fancy name for a survey technology which allows individuals to compare themselves against their aspirations and the rest of the sector on a series of 6 different measures. We're quite keen to encourage individuals and organisations to take this on board, to complete the survey, to collect the data, because I think if we can build up a picture of the sector as a whole, it helps us compare or benchmark ourselves against others, our peers and others in different organisations. So please look into that. You can get access to that on the Jisc website. I've only had a chance today to talk about some of the current technologies and some of the near-term developments that Jisc is currently working on. Here's a little roadmap which shows a series of projects setting things out for the next 18 months or so. Obviously, you can't see the detail of all of this. The bright green, yellow colours are cybersecurity. We've also got connectivity. We've got cloud software and services. We've got data analytics and a range of different things as well. And if you want to learn more about this, Phil Richards from Digital Futures at Jisc is here. He'll be only too happy to talk about these different projects. I'd like also to spend a little bit of time talking about what's going on at the University of Greenwich and how that plays into some of these sorts of themes and how Jisc is important in the work we're doing at our university. We've taken the approach that information technology and content are absolutely central and critical to what we're trying to achieve as a university. It's important because it provides essential infrastructure for us to do our day-to-day work. We believe that if we do it right, it will provide competitive advantage for us against other institutions. But we're also seeing information technology as a change agent. We believe that we can use it to change our business practices, to improve the work of our researchers, to improve the work of our teachers, and to improve the outcomes that our students achieve. So we're seeing IT change as a positive way to affect business change in our organisation. And it's clear to us that we wouldn't be able to do most of what we're attempting without thorough and solid support from Jisc. As an organisation, we actually see the problem right now, not technology. We've got enough technology. We've got more technology we need, quite frankly. It's applying that technology to meet the business challenges of our organisation, or applying it successfully and achieving good business benefits. And so what we did a few years ago, actually coming up for 5 years ago now, is we built a comprehensive IT strategy with a roadmap covering the period which coincides with our 5-year university strategic plan. Had quite a bit of support from the top, from me and my colleagues in the senior management team, but also the senior people in our IT and library service were really on top of this and behind this. And Paul Butler, who's here today, will be able again to answer questions about this or to give you your perspective on the work that his team has done. We saw IT as a big enabler of our strategic plan, not something that was tacked on the side, not something which was an afterthought, not something which was just a means to an end, but something which was central and critical and a key driver for all that thing. As I said, we saw this as a change enabler, not a change problem. We invested, in addition to the standard annual budget which our information and library services had, we put over £2 million a year, more than £12 million over 5 years, into supporting them to try and make a difference in our organisation. So they've probably spent £60 million over 5 years on IT technology and services in support of our strategic plan. A central part of that was getting a good governance model. I knew from my experience in the private sector and implementing technology projects throughout the world that you need good leadership, you need to bring the users along, and you need to understand where you are as a business and where the technology is in terms of meeting the aspirations of the organisations. We felt that was really critical. And one consequence of that was that we needed to hire people who could deliver stuff that really worked. And so we invested a lot in business analysts and program project management people. And in fact, after a while, we built a whole part of information library services called the Program Management Office, tasked with helping us deliver a series of these projects. And I'm pleased to say that by the end of this year, we'll probably have delivered about 80% of what was a fairly aspirational project. So here's our technology roadmap. Obviously, you can't read this, and you'll have one in your own organisation. But I think it's significant because it's multi-year, and each of those projects have got multiple components spanning several years. So you cannot, as you well know, implement significant change in a couple of wet Wednesday afternoons. It requires a long-term approach to this. It requires multiple iterations, and you've got to implement things, and you've got to improve and learn and get better as you go along. Also, there are about 35 projects on this, so there's an awful lot of things going on, and this isn't even the half of it. We could have doubled the number of projects on list if we really went out and included all the small things inside the organisation. So it does include things like upgrading the learning records, upgrading the learning ethics system, getting a good student record system, implementing mobile technologies, bringing high-quality interfaces in forms of web services, integrating our corporate business systems, and so on. One particular area, just to choose one example, where I think we've made quite a lot of progress as an organisation, is being in the way we use information to support effective decision-making. We've put a lot of effort into building a business warehouse for all of our regulatory information, but also the information we need to make decisions about students, about resources, about staff, and so on. And we've built a business intelligence layer on top of that to provide a query engine to support widespread access to that information across the organisation. So we've taken all the standard stuff you all know about, from a customer relationship management system about our students and the people interfacing in the outside world, our banner student record system, our finance system, our Oracle HR and payrolling system, proprietary timetabling systems, our library management system, and so on. We've used extract, transform, and load to integrate that into our comprehensive data warehouse, and then we've built a business intelligence layer using SAP business objects technology and some web services which allow that to be consumed by mobile phones to desktops to other different systems as well. And I'm pleased to see that people these days who turn up to meetings without ideas, without data, get pretty short shrift, actually, not from me necessarily, but from my colleagues, who now expect decisions to be evidence-led and to be based upon data content. And we are, as a senior leadership team, incredibly analytically oriented, much to the annoyance of some of our colleagues, I have to say. But at least when we make decisions, the bad decisions we make are now based on evidence rather than no evidence, which I think is probably a step forward. Another area where we've put a lot amount of time in is web systems and web content. So this is not just about our external website, which we use to advertise what the university does, but it's a range of internal services and a range of portal technologies to share information and content with people. And we've learned, I think, a few lessons around this, which it might be worth sharing. So when I arrived there, like you, we liked web technologies and web systems so much that we had many of them. We had at least 60 different external websites, and we had probably a similar number of internal websites and technologies as well, all of which were special, all of which had their own unique technology, which is essential to the business requirements of that organisation. So we've been embarking on a project to coalesce those together into a single shared technology platform and a single shared set of standards for organisation management, display and use. And we actually brought together the different parts of the organisation to a single coherent team. We organised them actually in IT, although I recognise that in different organisations, different homes will be found for this. It's just that for us, that's what worked in Greenwich. Governance, again, was key. We decided, because of the democratic nature and the strong-willed nature of individuals in organisation, that a big hammer was not the appropriate way to bring people together. But we tried to lead by example and not force, by making it easy for people to achieve things and see the benefits of using high-quality technology and high-quality standards and approaches. We had this vision of a single global design, but allowing individuals to create their own local content. In fact, we realised that a small group in the centre could not possibly understand how the whole organisation worked, or could ever compile all the content that was necessary to describe the organisation. So we trained people how to use the technology, we gave them standards, and we encouraged content as well as presentational and storage standards. And we empowered and trusted individuals around the organisation. We took an agile approach to it, always identifying the minimum viable product, build something, ship it, and then learn and improve as we go along. And we took the view, absolutely from the outset, that content was king. Content always trumped design and always trumped technology. And in doing so, I think we've moved forward as an organisation. While we've still got a long way to go, I think we've made some progress, we feel, in representing our organisation effectively. So just bringing all of that together and thinking about what that means for Jisc as an organisation, for Greenwich as an organisation, for us as a sector. Looking forward, I think there are three key challenges that the board at Jisc is currently focusing on. The first of those is funding. How can we assure our future and ensure that we can continue to deliver the services and the technology that people expect? I think we're fairly certain for the next 12 months. Beyond that, I think there's an increasing degree of uncertainty, but I'm confident that Jisc will still be here in 3 years' time and 5 years' time and doing some of the things that we do right now, as long as we get your continued support. Secondly, we're struggling, just like you are, to hang on to the coattails of the information technology revolution, keep up with the burgeoning levels of content, the massive advances that vendors are making in all of this technology, and the increasing demands which people are placing upon all of us. And lastly, we're trying to shift Jisc from not being a technology organisation, but to being a business value and a business solutions organisation. So that's why you've seen things like learning analytics, research data management, technology-enhanced learning, and will be other things over time which we also develop, which take the technology and provide business value and business solutions for organisations like yours to consume and to use, hopefully, to make your lives easier and to do things faster, better and cheaper. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being a supporter of Jisc over the years, and I'm really happy to engage in a conversation either now or over the break later on. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm conscious that people are probably